I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. By Ronald Reagan. Love it. All right. In a few seconds, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Kulisz, but I would have to say that he is one of our best presenters, and not just because he is sitting here right next to me, but because he does present such a wealth of information, such a wealth of knowledge and research that shows that there are things that are out there and options and things that you can do to better wisely take care of your health. And he has done the following topics: cholesterol, hot flashes, hormones, and more; incontinence, the secret women don't want to talk about but should. And I'm going to hand it over to him right now, but tonight's topic, Dr. Kulisz, is something I'm sure people have been looking forward to for a long, long time. So without much further ado, I'm just going to say that Dr. Kulisz is a genius. He is a brilliant presenter. He's an inventor. He's a pilot. He's a doctor. And, well, what else is there to say about you? Okay. All right, Dr. Kulisz, you go ahead and toot your own horn. I'm handing it over to you right now.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Dr. Andrei Kulisz. Good evening, everybody, and good afternoon in Australia. I hope that we are having some Australian listeners or viewers, actually, particularly from Australian Vaccination Network. Well, once again, good evening. We'll be talking today about rejuvenating intimacy naturally. And we are going to be talking about it much in the same sequence as I usually do it, starting from definition. What is intimacy and what we are trying to accomplish here? So here's the definition. Safe harbor, trust, comfort, closeness, any type of closeness, intellectual, spiritual, physical, closeness that is of sexual attraction and fulfillment, completeness, to make one. Those of you that are here in the United States, I'm sure that you know what's written on your dollar bills, and there is this statement, a pluribus unum, out of many one people. This is this completeness, this to make one. Let's go to the part 2. Intimacy is really probably the most essential element of living. It defines health, physical health, mental health. It defines growth, development, commitment, friendship, family. Develops children, as children are in good, loving, supportive environment. It defines happiness or promotes happiness and definitely promotes fulfillment. I can tell you that if you can look around you, you are going to find people, find couples, marriages that feel to be very, very much fulfilled by the fact that they are together. It's sometimes you will see that they tend to touch in passing each other, that they tend to hold hands. This is the fulfillment, this ultimate element of closeness, ultimate element of intimacy between two people. Intimacy, at least the way I see it, at least the way I experienced it through the years of my practice, well, I'm also a married man, a very happily married man, married to a very wonderful, independent, strong woman. Intimacy is possible in long-term relationships as it requires knowing the needs, desires, and the values of the other person. You see, this element of knowing is so essential because we are in a position of fulfilling those things, those needs or those desires. And in this relationship, we are accommodating the needs of intimacy of the other person. We are being the safe port to other person, this element of comfort, this element where the other person can actually, using American English, can drop the hair down and let the head down and be relaxed. It is the most important element of relationship. There is no relationship without intimacy. There may be a partnership of sorts, but there is really not a relationship. And if it is absent, and it was before, it was present before, where did it go and what happened to it? So the most important element is that as we go through life and as we go through our experiences, sometimes we see that those elements that brought us together, that made us actually live with each other, feel well with each other, and depend on each other and fulfill each other's needs, all of a sudden this is going away and this whole concept of intimacy is absent. So where did it go and what happened to it? Well, let's analyze it. Intimacy is an element of health, particularly emotional health or intellectual health. So we need to be healthy enough to be able to be intimate with the other person. Any problem that is not resolved, or problems that are stacking up and problems that are building up that are not resolved, may become as a distraction to intimacy. And long-term disability is one. A lack of communication. Well, I'm not going to be talking to him or to her because they, whatever, fill the blank, offended me or didn't like me or whatever. Diverging interests. This has to do with growth. You see, it's very difficult to see a marriage or a long-term relationship spanning, say, 2 decades of life with exactly the same interests all the time. That's why we see different things or get interested in different things, and the whole trick is that even though the other person does not necessarily does not get involved in this, at least we have this element of accommodation, and we can support each other's interests even if we are not directly interested in them. However, if those interests are getting divergent and the other person is not really of support to it, or we are not supporting those other interests, this is when those diverging interests appear, and this is when the whole concept of intimacy really falls apart. And now there is another one that is also very, very important, that is very frequently seen: sacrificing relationship for the benefit of others. Folks, I cannot tell you how many people I've seen through my clinical life that did this, that did exactly this. They sacrificed relationship with their spouse for the benefit of children, friends, parents, cousins, whoever, because in their book of priorities, they believed that those other interests are much more important than interests of their own relationship. I can tell you right now that there is nothing worse than this kind of an assumption. And here is why. You see, you can provide help to others only if you are healthy. Only you can help somebody lift something, but you must be strong and able to lift. If you deplete your resources, if you deplete your health, your strength, your relationship, then you will not be able to help anybody else. And how do you help others, not helping yourself and not helping your own relationship? Well, you basically suck out the energy of your own relationship for the benefit of others. And the sad part about it is that you abandon the interest of your own relationship for the benefit of others that may not necessarily appreciate it. Here, getting ready for this broadcast, Dr. David and I were talking about a very specific mentality of some patients. And there is a statement that my wife makes frequently, that if the health of a patient, if the patient sees that his health is a concern of others, then this is becoming none of his concern. If we are much more interested in well-being of other people than they are, then all of a sudden we are the only people that are interested in their well-being, and we are actually providing for it, even though they are not interested in it. And we are, because of that, we are depleting our own resources. So we are losing our own relationship. We are losing our sense of intimacy and friendship and safe port with our spouse, giving it all to those other people that may not even appreciate it. So this is a very, very important point, and I would like you to remember about it. And the last one is excuses. Well, if I only have a time, if I had a time, if I was only able to do it, if I had enough money, and so on. Well, those are just excuses. So let's go to another slide. What you have seen so far is a natural health view. This is how we, naturopaths or physicians in Europe specializing in natural health, see or we perceive as elements of intimacy. All elements, physical, intellectual, spiritual. This is our side of this coin. So let's flip the coin, and now let's go to pharmaceutical approach that by very definition focuses on physical aspect of intimacy. And you see, industry is unable to address multi-dimensional or multi-factual aspect of intimacy, which is really, as you know, as you've heard, it's quite broad. So they have to limit it or reduce it to one single element that they can address and quantify. So what happens is that industry reduced the definition of intimacy to physical performance alone. And to be able to do it, they established biological standards. And you know those standards. Cholesterol should be 200. Well, who said so? Industry did. 50 years ago, we didn't have standard for cholesterol, and we lived just fine. Blood pressure, well, 120/80. Who did it? Industry did. And there are many others. So what happens is this has to do with the bone density. It has to do with you know, how the time of sedimentation of blood. Everything else has to do with standards that have been developed by medical industry. So let's go to another slide. You see, industry needs a single verifiable element to profit. If industry cannot have this element, then there will be no profit for the industry. And physical performance is very easy to quantify. Either we can, something can or cannot happen, or can or cannot do. So what happens is that because the sexual part is, because sex is part of the part of intimacy, of this whole concept of intimacy, they decided to focus on sex simply because there's a physical aspect of it and it's relatively easy to quantify. So what happens is that we began the culture of legal social stimulation. We created lifestyle drugs. Viagra is one of them. So we reduced one of the most complex human experiences, which intimacy is, to a single mechanical function for profit. And I can tell you this, it is really with great loss to most of the society. And here is how they have done it. In 1998, human sexual life entered a new phase, and those light blue slides that you are going to see, the next 6 slides, I think, they have been developed by Dr. Leonore Tiefer from New York University School of Medicine, and they have been presented in 2006 in Australia at the inaugural conference on disease monitoring. There is an international organization that is tracking disease monitoring efforts of pharmaceutical industry, or actually medical industry, and they are having some very interesting slides to show. Here it is, that sexuality disease monitoring, the public relations disease awareness and branding campaign. Here's how it works. That they decided to promote universal biological standard for health, like sexual frequency, orgasm, erectile rigidity. And they labeled deviation from standards as a dysfunction. Let me tell you this, because it's very, very important. what industry has done is that if somebody has ability to be sexually active every day, then this is all right. But if once a week may not be all right, it may require a doctor's visit and medication. So they decided to brand it. And this branding is erectile dysfunction, female sexual dysfunction, and others. Translating it into daily life, one could say that industry may as well create situation that only people that are 6 feet and taller will be proper people, and anybody lower and anybody shorter than that will be deficient. So they will try probably to produce a drug that will grow everybody to those 6 feet or higher. Obviously, it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense. Our height, our weight, a lot of other physical and mental faculties that we have are determined by DNA and by the environment in which we live. So creating environment in which all of a sudden industry sets standard, how we should look like, how we should feel like, and how should we perform is just a snake oil type of marketing. So what happens is that every time we do something that is different than industry standard perceives to be proper, they brand it as a dysfunction. And then it requires intervention. It exaggerates prevalence of this condition and exaggerates distress and emphasizes need and usefulness for a doctor's visit and getting medication. We are getting in a very, very tight spot here because, you see, on one hand, we really, this is nonsense. This is, I mean, no matter how much you look at it, this whole thing is a nonsense. This branding and this disease mongering. But on the other hand, we are being stuck to it because it's being repeated to us from television screens often and often and often, so often that eventually it becomes part of our life. So the situation is that they create those campaigns that quasi-scientific campaigns that tend to drive into the public certain ideas or concepts frequently enough and for a time long enough that people accept it as a normal thing. So key components of sex dysfunction here, disease branding is science language, that this is not a normal part of life, and high prevalence and medically treatable. So that means that if I'm tired or we traveled, say, for 2 weeks and we have not engaged in sexual intercourse for 2 weeks because we traveled a lot, we were tired, we did a very substantial amount of work, then this would be not normal. Well, it is normal. It is just very normal. So what happens is that this is the example of an ad that a lot of guys have occasional erectile problems. I choose not to accept mine and asked about Viagra. And this is the beginning of socially acceptable stimulation. We complain that we have drugs on the street, illegal drugs, that those drugs are stimulating society, that people are doing a lot of stuff, overstimulated and things of that sort. Right here we have medications that stimulate us for the purpose of engaging in sex, which incidentally, through those definitions or industrial definitions, equals intimacy. So when we hear sometimes that somebody is talking about men and a woman that got intimate, no, they are not intimate. That has nothing to do with intimacy. They had sex together. Do you see the difference? That this wonderful concept of intimacy that is truly much more intellectual and spiritual than physical has been reduced to one physical aspect. It is a great loss to the whole concept of it. And then after that, we got another wave, and almost at the year 2000, that became this a big deal, female sexual dysfunction. What happens is that women may not want to have sex. Well, they don't want to be intimate. Well, yes, they want to be intimate. They may not want to have sex at that very moment. So once again, in 1999, actually it was through 2000, Pfizer pays to reanalyze 1994 data, and from 600-page survey with one question about problems, a 43% prevalence statistics for female sexual dysfunction emerges. It's a lie. If Enron only knew how to cook books. This is the second thing that I see such a prevalent, such an incredible lie, or semi-scientific lie, and probably is the next to cholesterol that was created in 1953 by Dr. Ansel Keys. That he cooked books too. He cooked books too. And the major news magazines build the market by spreading the prevalence statistics. Now, there is very important that you see it that way. Pharmaceutical industry or medical industry in general is a major contributor to financial benefits of media by placing their ads. If the ads of the medical nature have been removed from the media, probably 2/3 of the media revenues from advertising would be gone. So it is very important that media does what pharmaceutical industry wants them to do. And this is basically what happens, that we are placing an ad that will cost, say, $500,000, but we are going to run a specific article. And media says, oh, yes, sir, we'll do. And why is it? Because there is a golden rule here, that the one that has gold rules. Now, in 1999, a new group of female sexual dysfunction experts was convened with industry support to provide expert scientific validity. New group of KOL. KOL stands for key opinion leaders. And you see this cover of the publication, New Perspective in the Management of Female Sexual Dysfunction. Folks, there is no female sexual dysfunction. There are overworked, overtired, overextended women that are mothers and wives and managers and workers. Just give them a break. That's basically what it is. It has nothing to do with the fact. I mean, I've been around, I'm mid-60 guy, and I used to be pretty young guy too in my life, at least the way I remember that. And I can tell you this, that through my whole life, we went through times that we were rested and felt well, and there were times that we wanted to do a lot of things, and there were times that we were just tired or exhausted, and we didn't want to do anything. So the question is, if we were tired and exhausted, does it mean that we were sick and we needed doctor's intervention and with some, say, stimulating medication? It's a nonsense. Now, there is a very interesting thing that along with female sexual dysfunction era, a new element or side effect of it arrived. That was growth of off-label prescriptions. So what happens is that substantial part of revenues of pharmaceutical industry comes from off-label prescriptions. Those are applications of medication that have not been approved by so-called by the approval authority, this FDA here in the United States. So you see here the 1997-98, there was 58 million, 59 million almost, and then 2002-2003 was 115 million. It's almost twice as much. Oh yeah, twice as much actually. 96% increase, yes. So on-label drugs increased only 84%. So what happens is that off-label market is very, very important, and since there is nothing for so-called female sexual dysfunction available, then they will try to push medications or stimulants that are used by men to female population, believing that maybe this is going to kind of stimulate this whole thing and eventually stimulate the market and increase sales. So unregulated over-the-counter products emerging, so OTC over-the-counter. So and Zestra and Viel and it's a lot of it. It's just a nonsense. Once again, the concept of intimacy has been reduced to a single parameter. It's bad, and it also indicates how highly improper approaches pharmaceutical industry is using to push their product on people, and how incredibly the health of people can be affected, how negatively the health of people can be affected by it, and to what extent actually they can lose health or worsen their condition rather than improve. Now, talking about all this, all of a sudden we have this, what seems to be a bright spot. Pfizer gave up seeking scientific approval in 2004 for female Viagra. Well, yes, they did, but it really doesn't matter, because by the time female sexual dysfunction and the female Viagra have become brand names, the scientific failure is actually irrelevant. The need for it has been embedded already in the society, so people started being aware of it, and some of them started demanding it. And this is what counts for the industry to actually produce profits. So what causes it and how to help it naturally? We are back to our dark blue slides, and those are our slides, and we are going to address it, continue addressing it from the standpoint of naturopathic medicine. Here it is. The primary element of intimacy, the primary destructive element actually of intimacy is stress. It's omnipotent and it's very, very highly destructive. It's very important to understand that unless you deal with stress in a manner that is proper, unless you know how to unstress yourself and how to help your spouse unstress, or family member or child or whoever it is going to be, then you are going to be subjected to very substantial side effects of stress. Now, you see, stress is very much an intellectual problem, and there's no time for each other. I presume that many of you have heard about this special service for young, upwardly mobile executives that don't have time to date or to meet other people. So there is an entrepreneur, or a few of them in New York, that have those 15-minute lunches so people can meet people. Well, if I don't have time, if anybody is so intellectually deprived that believes that 15-minute lunch is going to set them for life, those people need immediate professional health care. It's just nonsense. If I don't have time to commit, to meet the other person, to cultivate the relationship, to make this other person be my person, to become a source of safe port for this person, 15-minute lunch day is not going to make it. Now, the second thing is that as we go through life, we lose interest in each other. This is probably the most common element in most of long-term relationships, that we have been together so much that we kind of know every game, every play in the book of the other person. We know how this works. We can literally predict everything, and kind of a boredom sets, and things really go away. I mean, all this excitement of being together goes away. Yes, I understand that it happens, and I hope I will try to show you some ways to actually restore it. Once again, diverging interests, we talked about it, intellectual disparity, lack of growth, and lack of faith. Intellectual disparity, well, this is when one person sits on a couch and watches whatever daily dose of TV. Lack of growth, we really don't try to educate ourselves anymore. We try not to basically get better or get broader. And lack of faith in each other, and lack of faith as faith that we proclaim, the God that we believe. Another one is depression. This is probably the most destructive of all, simply because we lose the drive, and this is the element that actually makes this whole concept of intimacy, of belonging to each other, very, very important. So if depression sets, then depression needs to be treated first. And I don't know if you are aware, there is a Swedish doctor, Anna-Lena Berglund. She's actually a urologist. And that was through my trips and teaching elements of urology in Europe, where I met her and met several other doctors, and we were discussing elements of depression. And the statement was that if person is sick, if person has health problems, but those health problems are in the context of depression, then depression definitely needs to be treated first before we do anything else, simply because no matter what we do, the depression is going to take it away, and we are not going to have any progress in treatment. Then the next one is age and cultural responses. You see, there are a lot of relationships between people of very substantial age difference. Those are very difficult to restore simply because, 20, 25, 30-year difference between the couple, between the partners, it's really quite a bit. And this may be really quite a challenge to restore it. And cultural responses, this happens a lot when people marry across ethnic lines particularly, or racial lines. This happens a lot, where perception of one side is not necessarily the same as the other. And then another one is grown children. I mean, you see, this one is kind of good and bad, because when we are raising children, we are kind of forced to pull this wagon together. And we tend to work together and everything is functioning, and all of a sudden children leave and we are losing the purpose. And we are walking through the house and we are passing by their room and something grabs our throat and say, wow, he is no longer here or she's no longer here. They have their own life. What we are going to do now? Now, this time is used by very many couples to restore their sense of intimacy and belonging. But it's also happening to many couples as something that is really an end to their life. They lived their life through their children. And this is not how it should be done. They should live their life for each other while taking care of children when children needed it. So what are the other health problems that we are talking about when it comes to intimacy? Those are much more physical health problems like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, depression, cancer, statins, use of medications, statins for erectile dysfunction particularly, and general malnutrition and obesity. Well, if I was to start commenting on this slide, I would start from the last one, general malnutrition and obesity. You see, our functioning, our metabolism, our physiology strongly, 100% depends on nutrients that we need to have daily for our living processes to function. If we are stuck with the nutrition that is of the grocer's shelf here in the United States, we really don't have much of it. We eat foods that are good for the next 2 years, which by very definition means that there is no nutrition in it, because if it was, the food would spoil. And we are basically run on chemical additives, chemical enhancers that make this completely empty food look well, taste well, and actually don't provide us with any benefits. So general malnutrition is it's a daily event in the United States, more so than any other country. Once again, we are a very highly developed society. We are a very highly industrialized society. We have all those ways and means of doing things. The first thing that we started destroying is our food. We started making it better. Well, the only problem is that better is for the business, not necessarily for the health of citizens. Then one up, statins and other medications. They are synthetic medications. They're not compatible with our metabolic and physiological processes. They are enhancing those processes in a direction that those medications want to accomplish or want to go. But actually long-term health is very definitely influenced by them in the direction of needing more and more medications. Cancer. Well, cancer is, talking about cancer and talking about other health problems from the standpoint of European physician, cancer is a side effect of physiology that went completely wrong. And what happens is that unless we correct the physiological processes, unless we correct underlying causes of cancer, we can operate the patient 50 times. And I'm not trying to make light out of it, because probably some of you that are listening to me right now have had cancer or have cancer right now. We can operate the patient, we can remove cancerous growth, but we are not removing underlying cause for it. So what happens is that after the surgery is successful, cancer was removed, the person was radiated, the person was subjected to chemotherapy, cancer returns after half a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So let's look at the underlying causes. Then one up would be depression. We talked about it. Irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease. Those two conditions, irritable bowel syndrome and then Crohn's disease as a more advanced step of irritable bowel syndrome, those are the health problems that we didn't have 50 years ago. Those are the problems that came to be after our food got so processed that it can stay on shelf forever. And because of that, we have one up, which is chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. This is a typical response of an overextended person that needs much more energy than it has to meet all the obligations of the daily life, be it employment, be it family, children, whatever it is, that cannot really handle it. But look at another side. We have another one, this anxiety, impaired concentration, poor attention span, headache, memory impairment, disrupted and insufficient quantities of slow-wave sleep. So there is a whole slew of other elements that also impose themselves on our ability to lead normal life. So what's the problem here? So let's get over those stresses and let's find out how those stresses really reflect on our health, on our abilities to stay in this great, wonderful state of intimacy with our partner. The first one is pre-processed packaged foods, completely nutritionally empty. If you are going to see foods that read fortified, folks, good food doesn't need to be fortified. Empty foods are fortified. It's worthless. Hydrogenated fats versus naturally saturated fats. Since day one on Earth, the only fats that we ate were naturally saturated fats of animal origin. Those were the proper fats. Cooking, well, cooking equals safety, even though that there is a large group of people that believe that raw foods are actually better than cooked. Well, we will address it later. And then the next one is that believe that new synthetic foods are better based on TV commercials. I can't believe it's not butter. Neither can I. Massive nutritional deficiencies of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and enzymes. And then all those items add up to one very sad effect. That the American population reached third to fourth generation of Pottinger cats. This is degeneration due to nutritional deficiencies. I would strongly recommend that those of you that listen to it, that go to Google and Google Pottinger, P-O-T-T-E-N-G-E-R, Pottinger cat, C-A-T-S, and then learn about this experiment. It's a very, very telling experiment, and hopefully you will be able to translate it into your own life. But once again, American population is 37th on Earth when it comes to health, and 40th when it comes to longevity. We have a lot of catching up to do. Now, environmental stresses. Massive use of conveniences such as detergents, conservants, preservatives, and other synthetics. We are attracted to toxic foods, drugs, and other toxins, aspartame, MSG, colorants, flavor enhancers, cigarettes, narcotics, etc. We are exposed to airborne pollution. We are exposed to social infections such as flu, for example, which is, however mild it is, it's still there. And then vaccinations, medications, subclinical inflammations, etc. All those things make up for a very substantial load to our organism, to our physiology, and we have to deal with this. We have to accept it and detoxify from it. So the best way would be to really stick to things that are free of it, free of toxins, free of those environmental stresses. Organic foods, for example, are such, and hopefully be healthier. But it's a very, very important thing to point here that most of those detergents, preservatives, and other synthetics and toxins have effect of xenohormones on our physiology. Now, I guess I don't have a slide here about it, but here is the thing, that a lot of those chemical substances have a structure that allow them to bond to hormone receptors on our cells. And as such, they can command cells to do things that cells normally would do only if the proper hormone bound to it. Well, what happens is that since hormones are regulating substances or signaling substances, depending on the definition, those cells will start doing things that they are commanded to do, while in fact there is no need for it. One of such important element in xenohormones is xenoestrogen. Estrogen is a hormone of proliferation. It's a very, very strong hormone. We wouldn't be able to multiply without it. Excuse me. And what happens is that those xenohormones create an environment in which uncontrolled proliferation of cells happens. And it doesn't matter which cells. So if we have, for example, some cancerous cells floating around, and every one of us does, then subjected to xenohormones, or specifically to xenoestrogen, may cause those cells to proliferate uncontrollably, to beyond the point of our ability to fight them, and eventually develop to cancers. And some of you may remember that some time ago, not long ago, and there was a test in New England on, I believe, some 25,000 nurses, that for some extended amount of time they were using estrogens, large doses of estrogens, and they came up with much higher incidence of breast cancer than the rest of the population. There was a test for it, and test was stopped actually. This test has never been really completed because of very high prevalence of cancer in this population. So it's very, very important to remember that synthetics have very negative influence over our health. Any synthetic, it doesn't matter if this is uncontrolled medication that doesn't need to be taken, or this is plastic bottle for water, any medication, and this includes makeup. Ladies, sorry, that's how it is. If you put it on the skin, you absorb it. And once again, with this, it's like with anything else that you put on your skin. If you cannot eat it, you shouldn't put it on your skin. But this is a completely different story of some other lecture. When it comes to lifestyles, too many responsibilities. We are constantly on the go. We have poor quality or insufficient sleep. We cannot rest or relax. Anybody remembers situation that you could actually sleep but you couldn't rest? And you woke up, it kind of seemed that you slept at least 8 or 9 hours, but you woke up and you were not really rested. What happens is that you have never fallen into sleep deep enough to get into this stage of rest and relaxation. And the University of Minnesota, I believe that was in the 70s, did a test on a group of students that deprived the group of students of sleep for 3 to 4 weeks, and this invoked chronic fatigue syndrome symptoms in healthy individuals. Very interesting, very interesting. And the last one is multitasking. You know, having 5, 6, 7 responsibilities and handling them at the same time or in very close proximity to each other can be very exhausting. So probably organization of life could help here to some extent, or maybe spreading responsibility with. So how to restore this sense of intimacy, this sense of relaxation, good health, how to recover it? So the first one that I would say is, let's determine what causes it. We need to know reasons to be able to address them. Don't cure cancer by cutting it out. Get rid of it by getting into underlying causes of it. So what happens is, set the baseline. How do I feel today? What is happening with me? And how I would like to be 90 days down the road. Let's establish a plan. What we are going to do, how we are going to split responsibility, who is going to be responsible for what, how am I going to rest, what am I going to, all those important elements have to be really identified, put on a paper, and organized to the point that we can address them, that we don't run into this sense of a vortex that mixes all those things together, and we really cannot make sense out of it. Now, it may sound funny, or maybe it may sound right improper here, but I would like you to learn to use word no. And I tell my patients that are coming to me, to get a little pad of paper and put a number 153 on a new page. And if somebody comes to them and says, honey or dear, could you please do it for me, whatever it is, the person says, well, I will be happy to. You are number 153 in my book. I will get to it as soon as I do 152 that are preceding. It will take me probably 60 to 90 days. I surely will take care of it. You have to see the face of a person like that. So please do remember, a lot of people are coming to you to take care of their own problems, not because they cannot take care of them themselves, but simply because they are lazy enough and they know that you are always ready to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Learn and use word no, N-O. And if they have problems with this word, ask them which part of it they don't understand. Accept airline passenger drill. Take care of yourself, then of those in your care. You remember when, they have this announcement that, ladies and gentlemen, in an unlikely event, those oxygen masks fall down, you put one on you first, then assist somebody in your care. You do it with your health and with your life. I'm not asking you to become heartless. I'm not asking you to become self-centered. I'm asking you to take care of your own health. I'm asking you to take care of your own relationship. I'm asking you to be kind to yourself and kind to your partner, because this is both of you that depend on each other, and both of you whose life is really so intertwined that if something goes wrong with one, the other gets affected. Now the next one is rebuild nutritional profiles. Nutritious food is the one that is not processed, preferably organic, and is nutrient-dense. What is the nutrient-dense food? This is always a definition that a lot of people have problems understanding. Nutrient-dense food is food that is usually very original, not processed at all. Organic, yes, preferably. Egg is such an example of nutrient-dense food. Meat, good meat is example of nutrient-dense food. Fresh veggies, great nutrient-dense food. Take an apple, for example, a fruit, or fruits, apple. Thousands of nutrients. You remember that apple a day keeps doctors away? This is one of the best examples of how incredibly good nutrient-dense food does. If you don't have it, or you don't have enough of it, support your health or your nutrition with good, complex nutritional formulations. Herbal extracts and single isolates is needed. And now there is a caveat here. Single isolates, I recommend single isolates very rarely simply because they require tremendous amount of skills, and because of that, if I recommend them to my patients, I want those patients to be in close contact with me. But what happens is that generally complex nutritional formulations and herbal extracts usually do things so well that you really don't need single isolates. But then again, if you need them, please stay in contact with your whoever it is, MD or ND or nutritionist, because they require substantial expertise, and simply that's basically how it is. Now, please do remember that nutrition is an indispensable element of living. It must be comparable with our metabolism, must be natural and organic. We do not metabolize synthetic or GMO products. GMO stands for genetically modified organisms. Now, check numbers on produce labels. Probably on apples or oranges probably is the most common. There's a 4-digit number on those little labels. And if this 4-digit number is preceded by 8, this fruit or this produce has been genetically modified. If it is preceded by 9, it's grown organically. So be aware what you are buying. Those of you that like corn, be advised that almost 100% of corn in the United States is genetically modified. And then when using nutritional supplements, always select the whole food formulations. So if you have a list, long list on the back of the label, that you have vitamin A, B, C, D, whatever it is, you know, we have those 20, 30 items written there. Those are not whole food formulations. Those are the mix of synthetics. It has nothing to do with whole foods. When it comes to getting back to your original state of intimacy, try to find common interests. Try to find this sparkle that ignited the fire that caused you to come together and stay together for a long time. Offer help and support, but do not be suffocating. And if in doubt, hold your hands. It always works. Relearn the pleasure of physical closeness. There is nothing greater than this touch, than the warmth of this close person that can actually have such incredible influence on how you feel and how you plan your future even. It's incredible. And be open and inviting. Please don't be suffocating. Be open and inviting. Well, not everybody likes to cook. I do. And my wife does too, as a matter of fact. We cook together at home a lot. It's a very intimate activity. Include plenty of animal products and indulge in fruits and veggies. Now, I know that I'm swimming here upstream because I recommend a lot of animal products, and there are people here who say, well, you know, the animal products are evil and things of that sort. Well, not really. If you are in doubt, you know, just we had this stuff since day one on Earth, and we flourished on it. Why is it all of a sudden that animal products have been bad over the last 10, 15 years and have not been bad for the last 100,000 years? Now, raw foods are better than cooked or processed. Yes, to the extent, and this has to be really qualified. There are some foods that are not really digestible raw, and they must be pre-cooked to become bioavailable. Pre-cooked means pre-digested. You see, our human gastrointestinal tract or digestive tract cannot digest certain raw veggies. It just cannot. We cannot digest grass, for example. We barely digest broccoli or Brussels sprouts. That's why we pre-cook them, make them crisp, but still having a lot of nutrients. So please do remember that cooking or pre-cooking does not remove nutrients, doesn't render food worthless. It renders food better bioavailable. Now, we prefer organic foods, obviously, and I recommend that everybody does. And when it comes to meals, eat with family and friends. It is very intellectual, but it's also very intimate. It's a great, great situation. And if you don't know how to do it, take a look at some Italian movies, you know, or maybe even there was a movie about Greek, My Fat Wedding, or something of that sort, where the whole family was sitting around the table and eating. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience staying together. So remember what brought you together, what ignited this fire. Relearn interest in your spouse. Relearn deep sleep, rest, and relaxation. Restart physical exercise. Take care of yourself. You have a long, long life ahead of you. You stay together. It will be much easier and much more pleasant. Commit to getting well. Commit time, desires, money, help. Do whatever is necessary to recover. Replace toxic relationships and habits with enhancing ones. You know, we all have people in our company somewhere around us that are draining. They are just toxic. Those are realists. Well, you know, somebody has to be realistic. Just tell them, thank you very much, listen, I really need a break, and switch over to those that are actually optimistic and great. Plan milestones and expectations. Check your progress against this plan. And work with natural health experts to help you accomplish your goals if you think that you are going to have problems getting it on your own. Intimacy, this is a habit of your daily routine. This is not something that you need to remember about. Once you practice this for 21 or 30 days or whatever the number is, it becomes a habit, and please make it a habit. Remember airline passengers drill. First, take care of yourself, then for those in your care. So if all of this is done, then hug again. Start now. It's a high time to do it. Thank you very much. At the end of it, I would like to point to you that the European Natural Health Center started a Restore Health America program, which is a completely free program to anybody that wants to participate. It is a 90-day program that asks participants only to stay away from 4 basic additives to foods. If you are interested in finding more about this, call us at the number here, 918-398-0252, or send us email to info@enhcenter.com. Once again, the program is completely free. It has to do only with refraining from using certain preservatives or certain chemical additives to foods. And that's it for today. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Kulisz, thank you so much. Folks, just remember you can type in your questions in the blue panel to the right of your screen, and I'll be asking them. But in the meantime, I'm just going to make a few more announcements. Grab this real quick. Just as a reminder, folks, there is a membership feature. So just in case you missed any of the webinars or any of the programs and you would like to catch up on it, we offer a 30-day, well, it's not a 30-day, it's like a monthly thing, but that gives you access to all the webinars that we've done in the past 30 days, and that includes the recording, whether the video or the audio, and in most cases the handouts that our presenters used, not the slides themselves, but the handouts themselves. Just also wanted to mention that Sherry's going to be uploading some of our presentation, especially the one we did last on Thursday, because this it kind of covers our philosophy on what we're planning on doing with all our tools and our resources. So that one should be on the site. I think that's from tonight. If you have any questions, just let us know about it. All right, questions. Let's see if can David speak up, please? Oops, missed that. Sorry about that. I'm some distance away from the microphone. Okay, I'm moving closer. All right. Would you like me to repeat what I said last time? Whoever asked that question. All right. Any more questions? I mean, this has been, well, I have a question myself, Dr. Kulisz, and that's this. So are you saying that for men, there's an organic cause of sexual dysfunction, but in women, for the most part, it is not? It's more like psychological and fatigue related?
Well, sexual element of our intimacy, our intimate life, is highly dependent on our intellectual abilities to be involved in it. It's in a way, it's a peak of our commitment or our state of intimacy. And both for men and for women, is highly dependent on our readiness to do it. If we are tired, if we are exhausted, if we really don't have much spirit in us to actually do anything other than say maybe eat something quickly and sleep, then I don't think that sexual life is going to be flourishing. However, if we are going to if we are going to learn how to deal with stresses and how to take care of ourselves better, then all of a sudden this element is going to come back. Now, mind you that you have to see it in a context of replication or life proliferation. You see, usually species cannot proliferate in stressed environment. So what happens is that wherever you go through animal kingdom, the animals, the species can proliferate only when they are ready to do it. The same applies to sexual life among people. We cannot be sexually active 24 hours a day and in every situation of our life. We can do it only when we are ready to do it. And the intellectual and the physical health has a lot to do with this.
Great, thank you. Now, Dr. Kulisz, I know you've been on TV and you've been promoting your philosophy really about health and natural health. And I really was expecting you to say a little bit about what you do at the European Natural Health Center. I know it is not just a regular, what's the word, naturopathic center, but what makes you different? And maybe you should just talk to us a little bit about that while people are asking their questions.
Well, this inadvertently is becoming a plug for European Natural Health Center.
Okay.
The European Natural Health Center is really a natural health clinic or naturopathic clinic in a sense. It is an extension of the clinic that my wife and I established in Europe, in Poland, where we basically augmented or supported a socialized health system in those areas that socialized health system couldn't handle. And that was specifically long-term treatments and the situations where patients needed some time to recover. Those were the situations where synthetic medications didn't work, while naturopathic modalities or natural modalities worked greatly. And just to remember that health is a process, so is losing health or regaining health. Those are processes. So they require time. So the clinic is basically wrapped up around the concept of supporting health or helping people regain health, not by active treatment of them, but giving them what their bodies need naturally. And this is part of our mission. That we believe in the miracle of life. We do not treat or cure. We provide the body with what it needs naturally. If the body has the elements it needs to heal itself, it usually will. If you would like to see the rest of the mission statement, go to enhcenter.com. There is a link who we are and what we believe in, and then you are going to get it. It's basically, basically a good quality naturopathic clinic.
All right, thanks. Now you know why we have him on all the time, because our philosophies are so much in concert with one another. All right, questions. Well, here's a comment. Thank you, Dr. Kulisz. Your talk has reinforced that 55 years my husband and I have spent happily together. Wow, 55 years. That's pretty good.
Well, congratulations there. I mean, congratulations.
That's very, very good. All right. What do you recommend when one spouse likes to spend time with lots of people and the other spouse likes a relatively higher amount of time away from people?
Get yourself a camper and go to the beach. You are going to find out that you will be with your spouse on a beach away from everybody else for, say, 3, 4, 5 days, and your spouse that likes people will enjoy it very much. But by the same token, learn how to enjoy other people. And may as well be that after you go through some moments of indigestion, quote unquote, social indigestion, you will actually start liking those people, because you will find out that many of them may have personalities and knowledge and wisdom that you will find very enhancing and enriching. So try it, and definitely camper is a good idea.
Okay. Get her away from people, or him away from people. Here's another comment. Thank you, Dr. Kulisz. This has been an excellent, excellent presentation. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, well, that looks like most of the questions have been covered. If you still have any more questions, you can contact us. The website is right above on the screen above. And also, if you would like to contact Dr. Kulisz, his number is 918-398-0252. That's 918-398-0252, or just go to his website. It's not case sensitive, is it?
No, it's not. enhcenter.com.
enhcenter.com. And remember, we have 2 webinars coming up, one before Thanksgiving and the one after Thanksgiving. I want to wish you all a wonderful evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving period, and God bless.
Well, happy Thanksgiving. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulisz. God bless every guys.